What did your school waste money on that nobody liked? I'm a teacher. My first year. The school leader bought a ping-pong table for the lounge in an attempt to make school more fun and relaxing. It simply became a surface to put copies on. The large schoolyard at my school had a set of planters in the center. They were basically 4 triangles made of brick that pointed in at each other and created an X-shaped walkways between. The outside sides had a bench each attached. People would sit and chat to each other on the benches. Teachers and students alike. There was very little litter or vandalism. The plants were kinda pretty insofar as any secondary schooler would care to notice. One year a duck made her nest in one of the planters, and apart from a few "oh hey a duck nest" comments, it was left alone. Then for some reason the school decided to rip the planters out. Took them 2/3 of the school year to do it and blocked off the X walkways so everyone had to crush by on the outside lanes between classes. Everyone was super curious as to what the planters would be replaced by. Turns out, nothing. They simply bricked over the holes left by the planters and left it as a huge empty space. We didn't even get new benches, so no one had anywhere to sit during break. People started to miss the plants since the lack of color left the whole area kinda bland. We also kept to the old X walkway since stepping over the former planters felt weird. They spent money to deprive students of something nice? This isn't common knowledge, so I was really the only one incensed by it. But I worked for Cisco Foods as a baker at university, and the upper echelons of the administration had hired their own personal pastry chef to make these extravagant desserts for their meetings. The pastry chef was legit. She made absolutely amazing desserts of a wide variety every day, loaded them onto a cart, and with her baker's outfit and hat on would wheel it up to their daily administration meetings. Her salary was paid for by the students of the school, so that the administrators could dine on first-class pastries and desserts made from scratch each day. She was really good at her job and actually helped me improve in the bakery. But I was so mad her job even existed simply to provide pastries to people who just sat around and decided how the school's money was spent. I obviously didn't make a stink about it to anyone because she was my friend and I wouldn't ever dream of putting her employment at risk. But I couldn't help feeling like her entire career was to make fat cats fatter, and it just boiled my blood. My son's current school sent out an email to parents announcing that they'd like to add voice projection to every class. He's in first grade and there's 20 kids in his class. Totally unnecessary. They had a demo session and it sounded horrible. My school buys so much useless things. Or at least when I went to. They dump all their money on the football team. Obviously the football team doesn't really care. But other people did. One thing that everyone has a common hatred for that the school bought, even the football team, is the inflatable the school got. From what I heard it costed about $4,000. It's this big ass inflatable that people could walk through. The inflatable has the school's mascot on it and it's just plain weird. There were so many ways the school could have spent that money on, but they choose to spend it on stupid inflatable that is only used like 3 times a year. 2012 Chromebooks that die in like 30 minutes. It's a tragedy when schools try to get tech for their students and basically buy junk because they have no idea what they're doing, and the next time someone brings up doing it right, they just point to it failing last time. My high school purchased a vending machine that only contained Swerve. What is Swerve, you ask? Carbonated milk. TVs. Like just random TVs in the hallway that showed slideshows and shit. Tens of thousands of dollars when we could have just put up bulletin boards. Was on boys' varsity soccer team in high school. New head coach. Wanted to emphasize more analytical approach. And as such, had booster club buy a $10,000 goalpost camera. None of the team liked the idea anyway. Especially since the girls' soccer team used their money for new jerseys and nicer balls, and they still made it farther in their playoffs than we did almost every year. As it turns out, the coach couldn't figure out how to put the camera together. And we never used it. Biggest waste of $10,000 I've ever seen. iPads for the kindergarten. They were intended to have educational apps on them that kids could play on at indoor recess. Believe it or not, most kindergarteners would rather play on the swings or play with dolls than learn to write their name on an app. No one used them. No one liked them and they all broke within 2 months. Murals in the bathrooms that replaced the mirrors. You sure they replaced them and didn't just put a mural on the wall opposite? Trash cans with the school logo on them and banners. They tried hyping us up about new trash cans on the morning show. Laminated ID cards that everyone had to wear around their necks on some dorky-ass lanyard. No one did it, so they made it punishable by detention. After that, half the students still didn't do it and the detention hall became so overwhelmed that they began to make backlogs. After a few weeks, not wearing a lanyard gave you a detention 2 months from then. Eventually, detention became so backlogged that students started doing more severe transgressions because they would have graduated before they could actually be forced to go to detention. After about a month, no one had to wear their ID cards at all anymore. They said it was for security purposes, so no one could sneak into the school. The thing is, you could put literally anything in the lanyard, and no one would check if it was your actual student ID card. I had a blank index card in mine and no one ever said anything to me. If someone actually wanted to sneak into the school, all they would need is a lanyard and no one would ever check if it's actually authentic or not. A 3D printer that the teachers won't learn how to use, so now nobody is allowed to use it. Random TVs playing school propaganda by the dining hall. Some of my classmates won a bunch of money for our school. Our school was one of the lowest funded schools in the district. The district took the money and spent it on another school. My college bought a small restaurant out for $1 million to build a $1 million brick gate that doesn't close. Name tags. Shortly after Columbine and all those other shootings peaked in frequency, it was supposed to keep outsiders from getting in the school unnoticed and shooting everyone, but at the time people doing the shootings were always students. So we joked they were bulletproof. Ooh, yes, I'm prepared for this answer. My school's mascot was a knight, and it was rumored that the school had the choice of installing a pool at the high school, or to commission a large, think like 25 feet long metal sculpture of a knight on a horse, and to hang it from the ceiling in the back hallway. They opted for the horse. Our mascot was a rocket, and a certain percentage of school construction money had to be spent on art. They spent $90,000 commissioning a giant rocket sculpture for the main field entrance. When it was unveiled, the artist had made one tiny change to the design. Instead of a pointy rocket tip, he'd gone with a rounded, mushroom tip. I mean, we thought it was hilarious, especially when they cut off the tip as their solution to the problem. But nobody liked it. Time to rant. In my senior year, I was a finalist in speech and debate. I qualified for the state tournament in both impromptu speaking and LD debate. I was living on my own then and had no money. Not even gas money to drive there. I asked the school for help. Since I'm representing the school, I got nothing. The football team, who barely won one game, got new uniforms. But I'm sure everybody liked them. Rant. My high school wasted a ton of money buying 2 golf carts. Their reasoning was it allowed staff to get to any dangerous scenes faster. Except we never had any accidents and they were mostly used for joy rides by the hall monitors. When 65 TVs were like $4,000 a pop, they set about 8 of them around campus that just displayed the time. $4,000 clocks. Not to mention whatever they used as a video source to send to the display. They decided all of the glue sticks had to be purple. My first high school wasted money on a war. Maybe I should explain. The school where I spent my freshman and sophomore years had 2 parking lots, one of which was reserved for faculty and guests. The second one, the place where students could park their cars, was near the back of the campus, and although it was larger and arguably more convenient for many reasons, it became the site of a long-running battle. On one fateful Monday morning, people arrived to discover that dozens of speed bumps had been attached to the asphalt. That probably would have been fine, except for the fact that the mounds in question were much taller than the standard sort, to the point where even the slowest moving vehicle would end up scraping against them. Complaints from both students and parents were quickly filed with the administration, but the official response was that nothing would be done. Something was done anyway, though. Nobody ever found out who had been responsible, but a few days later, word started to spread that the speed bumps had been removed. As it turned out, someone, or more likely, a group of someones, had ventured out in the middle of the night, hacked the offending humps from the parking lot, and returned the space to its original state. Needless to say, this didn't sit well with the people in charge of the school, and they wasted no time in taking action, by which I mean that they paid to have new obstacles which were still too tall installed. Another removal happened after that. Another reconstruction followed, along with the hiring of a dedicated security guard. To the best of my knowledge, that was when the war finally ended. The ceasefire may have come about because the latest speed bumps were finally short enough to actually get over, but my guess is that the vigilante vandals just gave up. Either way, I'm fairly sure that I wound up experiencing the one moment in history that saw someone being hired for the express purpose of protecting speed bumps. They bought a bunch of laptops for a magnet program. They were the worst laptops. My friend also didn't help by adjusting the battery settings to read critical at 98% and shut down. A memorial tree was planted for a girl who was killed right before graduation by her family and friends. The school allowed it and there was a beautiful Japanese maple tree there for like 10 years. Apparently they just cut it down and had no reason why. Family is pissed. Alumni are pissed. Damn it, Wago. A memorial tree was planted for a girl who was killed right before graduation by her family and friends. I misinterpreted that sentence at first. i7 workstation laptops with Quadro GPUs easily $2,500 plus each for an elementary K-6 school. Those machines were designed for CAD work and media production, but were instead solely used for web browsing and Microsoft Word. I don't have any idea why they bought them. New TVs in the cafeteria that just show the morning announcements. When I was still a student, my school spent almost $200K to paint the roads outside our school. You read that right. Almost $200,000 of our precious tuition dollars to paint the roads outside blue and yellow. To pour salt on this painful wound. The paint job didn't even make it through winter. So just to reiterate, $200,000 for 3 months of painted road. I think I'm still angry about it.